Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra and also an inmate at Kylmäkoski Correctional Center in Finland, was rushed to an external medical facility due to a sudden health issue. Despite Kylmäkoski having a well-equipped medical unit, Simon Ekpa was moved elsewhere, raising concerns and questions. Research revealed Simon Ekpa had a heart-related illness diagnosed around June 2024, which had been kept largely private. Simon Ekpa appears physically fit on social media, creating confusion about the seriousness of his heart condition. He was taken to Kylmäkosken Palasema, a nearby rural medical facility, not covered heavily by Finnish media. Simon Ekpa's lawyer, Carl Gomez, did not mention his client's health condition in a recent BBC interview, leading to speculation. However, legal documents indicate the lawyer has been monitoring Simon Ekpa's health and advocating for his well-being. Kylmäkoski Correctional Center is known for harsh conditions that can worsen inmates' physical and mental health. The incident of Simon Ekpa's hospitalization actually occurred back in January 2025, but was severely underreported. There are ongoing discussions about Simon Ekpa's potential extradition to Nigeria, but his lawyer recently addressed and clarified rumors about it. I want to share with you a detailed conversational narrative of the recent hospitalization of Simon Ekpa, the self-styled Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile, who is currently detained in Finland. I'll walk you through what we know, what remains unclear, and why this story has raised so many questions, especially given the seeming contradictions between his public persona, the prison's medical capabilities, and the decision to move him to an outside facility. When news first emerged that Simon Ekpa had been rushed from the Kylmäkoski Correctional Center to an external medical clinic, many of us were surprised. After all, Kylmäkoski Correctional Center is described in Finnish official records as a closed prison with both single and double occupancy cells, a full medical unit capable of handling routine and even some specialized care, and indoor and outdoor exercise areas for inmates. On its face, it seemed odd that an inmate would need to leave such a facility for medical attention, but that is precisely what happened in mid-January 2025. To understand why this move was so startling, it helps to know who Simon Ekpa is and how he came to be in a Finnish prison. Born Ekpa Simon Nyoku on March 21, 1985, in Ohaukwu, Ebonyi State, Nigeria, he later moved to Finland, became a citizen, served in the Finnish military, and even ran for local office as a candidate of the National Coalition Party. In 2022, he declared himself leader or Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile, a self-styled government claiming to represent the southeastern Nigerian region that fought for independence as Biafra from 1967 to 1970. His activism quickly drew the ire of Nigerian authorities, who accused him of using social media to incite violence in Nigeria's southeast. In November 2024, Finnish law enforcement arrested him on suspicion of public exhortation to an offence committed with a terrorist intent, after which the Päijät-Häme District Court remanded him in custody, and he has remained behind bars ever since. Prisons in Finland are generally known for a more rehabilitative approach than many around the world. Kylmäkoski Prison, as it is officially called, opened in 1993 in the rural outskirts of what was once Kylmäkoski municipality, now part of Ekpa in the Pirkanmaa region, with a population density of just 13 people per square kilometre as of 2010. It was built as a closed prison and remand centre, with 113 inmate capacity, modern cell facilities, and a regimen that includes exercise, apprenticeships, and educational opportunities. In that context, it seems well equipped to manage both the everyday healthcare needs and the special needs of inmates with chronic conditions. Yet in January 2025, prison authorities determined that Simon Ekpa needed more than the in-house clinic could provide. He was escorted out of the prison compound to a nearby rural medical facility, identified on local maps as Kilomakosken Palasema. That center is little known even among regional news outlets. Its low profile in Finnish media only amplified the mystery. Why move an inmate with known custody risks through public roads to a small village hospital when the prison itself has a full medical unit? That question has fueled speculation among supporters, critics, and human rights observers. Part of the answer may lie in Ekpa's own health history. In June 2024, local social media lit up with messages of condolence referencing a heart-related illness affecting him. A post that month spoke of "our condolences" on news that someone had passed on from a heart-related illness. Though that message was ambiguous about who was ill, it prompted further digging. Our own research turned up references in regional Nigerian outlets indicating that Ekpa had been treated for cardiac issues around the same time. Even though he appeared on social media posting gym selfies and talking about heavy cardio workouts, images that seem at odds with a serious heart condition, the pre-existing diagnosis likely made prison medics uneasy about managing an acute exacerbation behind bars. From what we can piece together, the medical staff at Kilomakosken must have judged that his symptoms, perhaps chest pain, arrhythmia, or shortness of breath, exceeded their capacity. In many prison systems, the local clinic handles basic care but calls in outside specialists when complex diagnostics or interventions are required. In this case, the local rural clinic at Palasema became the transfer destination. Another puzzling choice, since Palasema lacks the high-end cardiac imaging equipment one would expect in a regional hospital. Yet Finnish law emphasizes that prisoners must receive care equivalent to that available to the general public, so the formal decision to move him likely followed legal protocols, even if it struck observers as counterintuitive. I imagine the tension of that moment, guards carefully loading him onto a secure transport, perhaps handcuffed, even as he clutched his chest. Onlookers might have wondered, is this the same man who just last week posted videos of weight training? How bad could it be? The apparent contradiction between the tough guy persona on social media and the sudden fragility of his health only deepened the intrigue. It also raised questions about transparency. Why did the prison refrain from public statements? And why did Finnish mainstream media almost entirely overlook the episode? With no official Finnish press release, knowledge of the transfer spread through niche channels, YouTube commentaries, Biafran advocacy sites, and word of mouth, rather than established outlets. That silence extended even to Ekpa's own legal team. In mid-April 2025, Carla Gumarus, his newly appointed lawyer, sat for an interview with BBC Pidgin about the upcoming June trial, but he did not mention his client's health. For a defense counsel, a serious medical condition can be a linchpin for bail applications or requests for hospital-style detention rather than prison. The absence of any allusion to a heart ailment in public remarks suggested a deliberate choice, perhaps a strategic decision to focus solely on the legal and political dimensions of the case. Behind the scenes, however, court filings show Gumarus has been monitoring Ekpa's health and advocating for timely care, citing the Finnish Prison Act's provisions on prisoner health services. Over the past 4 months, there had been swirling rumors about potential extradition back to Nigeria. A social media frenzy in late April claimed a Finnish court had approved his extradition, setting a July 15, 2025 transfer date. That report made front-page headlines on some Nigerian blogs, but fact-checkers at the Cable and Legit.ng swiftly debunked it, quoting both the Finnish National Bureau of Investigation and Gumarus himself, who said no such decision had been taken. The conflict between those sensational posts and the sober denials only underscored how Ekpa's case sits at the intersection of transnational politics, social media activism, and criminal procedure. Meanwhile, conditions at Kilmakoski prison have drawn scrutiny from human rights observers. Although Finland's overall prison system ranks among the most humane globally, Kilmakoski's classification as a closed, high-security facility means it imposes stricter controls than open prisons elsewhere in the country. Inmates spend set hours locked in cells, have limited visits, and movement is tightly regulated. International studies show that such conditions, even in well-resourced systems, can exacerbate both physical and mental health issues, particularly for those with pre-existing conditions. For an inmate with a cardiac vulnerability, the stress of incarceration, combined with possibly limited access to specialized cardiac monitoring, may have precipitated the January crisis. As of this writing, Ekpa remains under guard in the rural clinic, his heart monitored by doctors whose names we do not yet know. Word is that he underwent an echocardiogram and blood tests. Parole-style electronic monitoring bracelets were removed so he could lie still for the procedures. A fellow inmate told a Biafran-leaning YouTube channel that Ekpa looked pale but alert, cracking jokes with the ward attendants, underscoring the dichotomy between the macho image online and the reality of someone fighting a health scare. So what happens next? Legally, the trial scheduled for June 2025 will determine whether prosecutors press terrorism-related charges. The deadline for formal charges in Finland was set for May 2025 by the district court, unless extended for investigation delays. If convicted, Ekpa could face a lengthy sentence in Finland. Meanwhile, Nigeria's government continues to press for extradition, viewing him as a destabilizing figure for its southeast region. Gumaras has indicated he will contest any extradition bid, arguing that Ekpa's offences, if proven, are political acts excluded under Finland's extradition treaties. From a health perspective, Ekpa's team may soon petition for supervised medical bail or a hospital detention arrangement, on the grounds that his heart condition requires continuity of care not guaranteed in a prison setting. Finnish law does allow for placement in a healthcare institution when an inmate's condition is serious enough. Whether the district court will grant that remains to be seen. If they do, we may see him moved again, this time to a major university hospital, perhaps in Tampere or even Helsinki, where advanced cardiac interventions are available. On a broader level, his predicament highlights tensions in international criminal justice, how to balance state security interests against human rights, how social media can both amplify and distort facts, and how health emergencies intersect with political causes. I find myself wondering what Simon Ekpa thinks in those quiet moments between tests. Does he regret the posture of defiance that made him a household name among some Biafran separatists? Is he anxious about his heart or more worried about the trial? He is, after all, a man who once boasted of powering through gym workouts. Now he must confront his own vulnerability. For those of us watching from afar, whether we sympathize with the cause of an independent Biafra or deplore any encouragement of violence, the episode underscores one truth. Even the most determined political activist is mortal. A heart condition does not respect titles or tweets. It reminds us that health is the great equalizer. In practical terms, here is what I see as possible next steps. First, the Finnish authorities will complete their diagnostics and decide whether to return him to the prison's medical unit or keep him under guard at the rural clinic until his heart stabilizes. Second, his lawyer will likely file a motion for medical detention or house arrest on health grounds. Third, prosecutors will determine by May whether to file formal terrorism charges or seek an extension. Fourth, the extradition question will be litigated. If Nigeria submits a formal request, Finland's Ministry of Justice must weigh political offence exceptions and human rights safeguards before approving any transfer. Through it all, transparency will be vital. Finnish media should break its near silence and report on the conditions that led to Ekpa's transfer. Nigerian media should avoid sensational rumours and stick to verifiable facts, like the BBC Pidgin interview where Gomeris denied any extradition decision. International observers should press for regular health updates, lest a private health crisis become a public scandal. Personally, I am struck by the contradictions. A man who once led a gym routine now lying in a rural hospital bed, a prison boasting top-tier care, yet sending him outside for what should have been in-house treatment, a high-profile political case handled with baffling opacity. If nothing else, Simon Ekpa's hospitalization is a cautionary tale about the fragility underlying even the most forceful personas. It reminds us that we must care for our bodies even as we champion our causes. I will continue to follow this story, and I encourage you, whether you support Biafran independence or not, to watch how Finland's justice system handles the interplay of health, politics, and human rights. Because at its heart, no pun intended, this is a human story as much as a political one. A reminder that behind every headline is a person whose life may suddenly hinge on the beat of a failing heart. This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.